I moved to Baton Rouge over 13 years ago. I was born and raised in Slidell, which is a suburb of New Orleans, and I moved up to Baton Rouge like many folks to go to college, and I've been here ever since. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I've learned over time while living here, and with new things popping up, there's some stuff that I kind of wish I knew before actually making the move up here. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over 6 things that I wish I knew before moving to Baton Rouge. And if you're new here, my name is Shawn. I'm a realtor here in the greater Baton Rouge area, and this is Moving to Baton Rouge. On this channel, we talk about all things Baton Rouge, what to see, what to eat, and how you can get to know the city of Baton Rouge and its surrounding cities just a little bit better. And if you're looking to move here, I would absolutely love to help. All of my contact information is going to be in the description below. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this video. All right, so one of the very first things that I really wish I knew about was the LSU bubble. Now, what this kind of means is I wish I knew I was in the LSU bubble. So like I said earlier, I moved up to Baton Rouge to go to college because LSU is the flagship university here in Louisiana. In my very first few years, I actually lived on campus at LSU. So I ate at LSU, I slept at LSU, I studied at LSU, and of course I traveled a little bit outside of that, but there is a very distinct difference between the city of Baton Rouge and LSU. This is my first time leaving and living on my own. So of course I didn't really expect to necessarily go and explore the city. And while I was at LSU, I just, some things crossed my mind like, man, there's just nothing to do sometimes. I wish the city was more exciting and had more things to go explore. In all reality, I kind of just didn't go out. And I hear this talking point, the same one that I said when I was younger, from a lot of people, and I don't know, it's not really a true statement. There are so many things to do and see in Baton Rouge, and to be fair to my younger self, I feel like there weren't as many options whenever I was younger, but there definitely still things. They had lots and lots of events, but Baton Rouge over the past decade or so has come up in a very strong way. So I just mostly wish I would have explored outside of that LSU bubble, explored more of the city of Baton Rouge to see what it offers. And of course, now later into adulthood, I'm seeing these things in Baton Rouge. And of course, I have a very deep appreciation of the city, but I wish I would have got there sooner. Now, the LSU bubble is a really large one, but another thing that I wish I knew more about before I moved to the city of Baton Rouge was the food scene. Now, the food scene in Baton Rouge is a very interesting topic. Kind of like what I said earlier about how Baton Rouge has come up a lot over the past decade. I really feel that way about the food scene as well. In my opinion, I think Baton Rouge has one of the most underrated food scenes. Now, when people usually think about Louisiana, people do think about how great the food is, and they bring up 2 places, New Orleans and Lafayette. I have to give New Orleans and Lafayette their props. Obviously, they're incredible, but Baton Rouge is usually not brought up in those conversations as much, which is unfortunate, but I really do think Baton Rouge has some incredible eats and it's underrated. I've gone out of the country. I've traveled a decent amount throughout my life. Sometimes I kind of find myself going, this is really good whenever I try something, but it's not as good as it is in Baton Rouge. And I'm not just saying that to say it, I really mean it. For example, whenever I traveled to Hawaii a few years ago, I tried a pad thai that I've heard was some of the best pad thai that you'll ever try. Absolutely amazing. Everybody needs to try it. And I tried it. And all I could kind of think about was this is really good, but I kind of feel like chai thai lao is better. By the way, if you haven't been to chai thai lao in Baton Rouge, go. It's really good. So I have to give it its props. Now, there's also something to know about Baton Rouge as well. We have a lot of Tex-Mex here, an overabundance of Tex-Mex. Sometimes we hear about there's a new restaurant coming, and there's a lot of people that kind of, I don't want to say roll their eyes, but there's a lot of people that are like, is it another Mexican restaurant? It's kind of a meme at this point, but it's something to know. And unfortunately, not as many true authentic Mexican restaurants. So I think that's something that we're lacking and I wish we had more of. Something else that I feel like we don't have as much of is true fine dining options. Now, don't get me wrong, we do have fine dining here in Baton Rouge, but I'm talking New York City level or even New Orleans level fine dining. Now, of course, me in college, that's not something I was looking for, but we really just have less options when it comes to those. Overall, if you're coming here, just know New Orleans and Lafayette, of course, they're gonna have some amazing food there, but Baton Rouge is something I would not count out. Something else that I wish I knew more about before I moved to Baton Rouge is the culture. Now, people in Louisiana would largely say that Baton Rouge has a lack of culture. If you're coming from out of state, I know how that sounds. It probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, what do you mean? Baton Rouge seems to be a very, culturally rich city. But the main critique of Baton Rouge is that the culture is not very distinct. Especially a lot of people compare Baton Rouge to New Orleans and Lafayette. And for good reason, they're larger major cities in the state, so of course they're going to get compared to. So you have the city of New Orleans with a larger Creole population and history. Then you have Lafayette, which is Cajun country, Acadiana. And then you have Baton Rouge, which kind of like a mix of both, but not super strong in either direction. I actually heard a really good quote. I wish I could remember where it was from, but somebody described Baton Rouge as a microcosm of Louisiana. Something else that I really wish I knew more about before I moved to Baton Rouge was the traffic. Now, keep in mind, I'm coming from Slidell, which is a much smaller city than Baton Rouge. And whenever I moved here, I was like, this is horrendous. Our infrastructure is behind compared to a lot of other major cities with the same population. And with Baton Rouge holding two major colleges, LSU and Southern, we see the traffic issues pretty strong here, especially if you work typical hours, like go to work in the morning, leave in the evening. Something I've learned while living here is it really just depends on where you live and how much you'll see that traffic. If you are a student at LSU or Southern, yeah, you're going to see the traffic because during the school year, that's when we just see traffic at its highest moments. During the summertime or during breaks, I feel like I don't feel that same kind of traffic, really, honestly. I don't feel like I don't see it to that level. And another reason why you might see the brunt of the traffic issues is if you live in the outer suburbs. So if you live in Gonzales, Prairieville, or Denham Springs, Port Allen, especially if you cross over the bridge. The bridge is notorious for its traffic, by the way. Then you will experience Baton Rouge traffic and, you might tear your hair out a little bit. Another reason that's probably a source of our traffic issues is that drivers suck for the most part. Now, I don't know. Of course, I might just get frustrated with some people driving on the road here, but, our insurance is higher here because we do see more accidents. And with accidents come traffic. For my fifth thing that I wish I knew more about before I moved here was more so I wish I had an appreciation of the nature that's here in Baton Rouge. Now, with living here in the city and going to a major college like LSU, I feel like I got a chance to meet lots of different people that moved here from different states. Now, something that I took for granted since I've lived in Louisiana my whole life is that we have so many trees and just so much greenery in general here around Baton Rouge, and I would just say in Louisiana. Now, whenever they pointed this out to me, I really started thinking about the different areas that, I've traveled to, like Las Vegas or LA, and I just started getting more of an appreciation, I guess whenever I was in those areas, it was just so dry, and I didn't see as many trees, and then I started getting more of an appreciation of my life here. One of my favorite areas in Baton Rouge is the Garden District, specifically Park Boulevard, where as you drive down, you'll see these beautiful large live oak trees that adorn the median. It's really gorgeous, just classic Southern elegance. And for the sixth thing that I wish I knew more about before I moved here to Baton Rouge is the libraries and parks. Now, if you did not know this, which I didn't know this before I moved to Baton Rouge, is that Baton Rouge has one of the best park systems and library systems. They're both award-winning systems nationally, and I talk to folks here all the time that move here from out of state, and they are thoroughly impressed with our system. So kind of talking one by one, the park system is called BREC, and the BREC park system is throughout East Baton Rouge Parish. But there are so many different parks and with so many different amenities, there's something for everybody. Lots of different trails you can also use, jogging or biking, several different events, swimming events. They also have indoor facilities, pickleball, tennis courts, even skate parks, which is actually one of the first things that I used whenever I moved up here to Baton Rouge. So if you're ever looking for, something athletic to do, it's definitely something to utilize. And the people here love their BREC parks. And people here also love their libraries. The Baton Rouge library system is unmatched. It's absolutely incredible. So many different resources, classes, events. They are updated, state-of-the-art library systems, and they're scattered all around Baton Rouge. One of the huge highlights for me with the library system is Libby. And if you're not familiar, Libby is what the library uses so that way people can stream music, movies, TV, ebooks through their phone, as long as you have a library card. That is insane. And with so many different classes, I've seen people do classes on fitness through the library, classes on coding, stuff to help people get ahead, but also like fun things like video games and just more book clubs. I just think it's an incredible resource here, and the people of Baton Rouge absolutely love it. Well, y'all, those were 6 things that I wish I knew more about before I moved here to Baton Rouge. Were any of them surprises? Were those things that you would expect? Is there anybody that lives here that feel like there's something I left off? I would absolutely love to hear your opinion. Leave them in the comments down below. And of course, if you're looking to make the move here to the greater Baton Rouge area, I would absolutely love to help. All of my contact information is going to be in the description down below. And thanks for watching.